Influential conservative activist Charlie Kirk was speaking at an outdoor event at Utah Valley University when he was killed by a single gunshot on September 10th. Here's how it all unfolded. A crowd of about 3,000 people gathered to hear Kirk on Wednesday in Orem, Utah. Before taking questions from the audience, Kirk handed out caps at the talk titled Prove Me Wrong, part of a planned 15-event tour of U.S. college campuses. Kirk began speaking under a tent in the early afternoon. Moments later, a person can be heard asking Kirk about the number of mass shootings in the United States. As Kirk responded, a gunshot rang out.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
The video footage, which Reuters has frozen before the moment Kirk is shot, shows him being struck in the neck, and the crowd can be seen running away from the scene in different directions. A figure on a rooftop appears to be seen in footage of the moment the crowd dispersed. Reuters was able to confirm that the figure seen in the video was on the roof of the Losi Center at Utah Valley University, and the position of the figure matches the one seen in other corroborating footage posted on social media. Immediately afterward, Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital and was pronounced dead hours later.
Today we're diving into a story that shook America this week. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, now a conservative. Some of you might say that, that's America's problem. It's not our business. But wait a minute, just wait. Because when you look closely, you see the same patterns happening in Uganda and across all of Africa. Donald Trump surviving a sniper attack, to Charlie Kirk being killed in public, to our very own Kizza, Dr. Kizza Besigye being arrested again and again and again, and Bobi Wine rallies being violently blocked. This is just their problem, you might think, but it's basically a global story of power, violence, and issues called democracy. All right, let's start with what happened in America. On September 10th, Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was speaking at Utah Valley University. Out of nowhere, a sniper on the rooftop opened fire and with a bolt action rifle and instantly killed him. He died instantly and police caught the suspect. President Trump called it a very heinous assassination.
My great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
And the Utah governor said it was clearly political. And this comes barely after Trump himself was targeted a year earlier at a rally in Pennsylvania. You remember that viral photo that went online? Trump bleeding, an ear cut by a bullet, but raising his hands in defiance. Fight, 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 fight. Yeah, I hope you remember it. So Americans are shocked. Everyone is really shocked about what happened. It has divided the country between the Democrats and Republicans, the left and the right. And it shows really that you who fights for free speech, you're actually a target. So, but for us Africans, for us, we see it as if it is just a very strange thing. It is strange, but also at the same time, it looks familiar. You speak something, you never know, you might disappear in the night, middle of the night. Here at home, political violence is not new. It is something that we always see on our televisions, on NBS, UTV, NTV, and all the local stations. Dr. Kizza Besigye, for example, the former opposition leader, how many times has he been arrested? Over 40. He's been tear gassed, he's been beaten, he's been detained, and I think he's even still in jail as I speak right now, sometimes for just holding a rally. And then, of course, there's Bobi Wine. The young presidential aspirant has already begun his campaign, I think, but he's already being blocked in all areas. He has been disrupted. His supporters have been beaten or even killed. His driver, you remember, Yasin Kauma, shot dead during the fracas of Arua in 2018. And of course, some of his closely knit members are really going through a lot of hell. So it's not something new. The only difference that in America, they call it assassination attempt. And then in Africa, perhaps possibly we call it's just keeping order. That's what, of course, they say. Order from above. That is the African political style, basically. So that's the difference. But whether you call it assassination or tear gas or arrest, the message is the same. Violence is being used to silence others. And it becomes a big problem. In the global pattern, you realize that this isn't just Uganda. In Africa, you've heard of West Africa, where there are coups that are replacing, of course, elections. Leader of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, he entered in a coup. So violence is basically used, of course, as a means to power. In Nigeria, you see of peaceful protesters in Lekki, Tollgate, where they were shot in 2020. In Sudan, the same. You realize what happened in the protesters, and now it has led into a civil war that has failed to stop. We have two general leaders in Sudan fighting against one another, and this war doesn't seem to end. So violence is being used in all instances. So in America, you see the land so-called democracy leaders are being targeted by snipers. So what's happening? Why does politics keep slipping into violence? That's a question that you may ask, I may ask, everyone is asking. So, is it liberalism? Is it extremism? Or it could be just people are just complacent generally in life. Governments are becoming more, complacent. Some in the West, of course, are arguing that liberalism has gone too far, tolerating hate groups, ignoring radical Islamists, or brushing off of extremist voices until they explode. Others say no. The real problem is actually our political leaders. They themselves are using violent language and turning rivals into enemies and making violence seem like the only solution. Now, in Africa, the problem flips. It's not tolerance. It's just basically repression. You see the governments, they clamp down on the opposition so hard that the violence becomes very inevitable. Of course, in all cases, both cases, the result is the same. Democracy suffers, citizens lose faith in peaceful change. Just as the old adage says, when two elephants fight, the grass always suffers. So, what are the lessons that we have to carry as Ugandans and most likely Africa? What do we learn from it? We just know that for once that political violence is generally global. It's not only an African issue. You can see it has happened in America. Since if the land, they say the land of democracy can have such kinds of instances, then it can happen anywhere. But the truth still remains that silence is dangerous. When you remain silent, and that's the adage that actually Charlie Kirk used to say, it is better to confront each other in a peaceful debate of ideas, in the marketplace of ideas. You debate one another, and the person who has the best solution or comes with the best idea wins the day. That is what democracy actually entails. But remaining silent actually leads to more arrests, more violence, more killings, more assassinations. So leaders will always choose, of course, violence over dialogue. So when you dialogue, it's much easier, at least for many people, to see that options that can solve a solution can come up. So the other thing is now the young people, the youth, whether in Kampala or in Nairobi, Accra, Ghana, in Abuja, Lagos, or maybe in Bamako, Mali, Ouagadougou, all those places that are going through some of this repressive violence. Why don't you young men and women who suffer the most when these bullets replace the ballots, why don't we wake up? Why don't we take charge? Run for offices, run in positions, and speak more. Because when you remain silent, it becomes a very difficult for you voice to be heard. And of course, we must demand accountability. We must demand fair elections. And of course, we also need to have peaceful politics. Because without that, the cycle will always repeat itself. So my people, Charlie Kirk is gone. Trump almost passed on, by the way. Besigye has survived years of state violence. Bobi Wine is still pushing despite the repressions. Now the question is, do we want to wait for more bullets, or do we build systems that practice life, voice, and democracy? Let me know what you think. In the comments, do you see Uganda in America's story or America in Uganda's story? Don't forget to subscribe, like, or share this video. This is just the beginning of many discussions we shall have online. Remember, we check the facts and you decide.